What did the people of the Bible look like? The obstacles to the listener accepting the facts in this presentation are several. TV programming's all your life, movies all your life, pictures in your school history books. At the top of the list is the whole of modern Christian theology. It goes like this. The Old Testament is about the Jews. Abraham, Isaac, David, Solomon were all Jews. Modern Jews are the descendants of the Old Testament Israelites, the Jews, so the people of the Old Testament must have looked like modern Jews. According to modern preachers, Jews are God-chosen people. Bless the Jews and God will bless you. 6 million Jews died for our sins at the hand of Hitler, a white Aryan man. We must never forget this. Jesus, a Jew, came for everyone in this world, all 9 billion, and in God's eyes, all people are the same, except because Jews are God's chosen, they are higher up, being God's chosen. All people are equal in God's eyes. Jews are God's chosen. Never forget this. They are more equal. Modern Jews tend to have black hair, brown or black eyes, are short, tend to have a big nose, often a sagging lower lip. They are a city people, have always been city people, not a farmer or rancher in the bunch. I have never seen one as an engineer either. They tend to flock to the media, TV, movies, newspaper, entertainment industries, information flow industries, mind-changing industries, money lending, retailing of goods, good at bargaining a sale, financial expertise, politics, lawyering, and are shrewd businessmen. They are superior at making money. Most of them are on the political left and want to change the direction of America, Western civilization, away from the founders' intent to theirs. Their religious attire is black, with black skullcap or black hat. Contrary to the above, ancient Israel was an agriculture people, like farmers of today. And from my readings about European Jews, for centuries, perhaps for 1,000 years, they had arranged marriages, and their primary objective was to breed for intelligence. Think about the long-term consequences of this. An arranged marriage was not for piety, love, attractiveness of mate, or even whether they liked the mate. The primary objective for parents was to mate their children for the smartest your social status could permit. They have large egos of themselves, to the point where they harm the nation they reside in. Their holy book, the Talmud, refers to all non-Jews as Goyim, G-O-Y-M. This means human cattle, to be managed in such a way to benefit Jews, because they are smart, God's chosen people. There have been lots of books written about Jews and their involvement in communism. It was mostly Jews in Russia that brought down the Tsar government there. 50% of the party, 100% of the secret police, 1% of the population. 40 million enemies of the state were shot, starved to death, or worked to death in Siberia. Most of these people were called the Rus, the founders of Russia. Swede Vikings 1,000 years ago. They were businessmen, farmers, tradesmen who could not bend over for communism. They were cousins to the Scythians, white rulers in India for 2,000 years, who looked like the Sumerians. I've seen many pictures of Nelson Mandela in his rise in South Africa, and always to his left is Joe Slovo, one of God's chosen, the head of the Communist Party in South Africa. In America, they have always been behind the black empowerment movements at 2% of the American population. And it was Talmudic Jews that wrote the Masoretic text of the Bible. The Masoretic text is the authoritative Hebrew and Aramaic text of the 24 books of the Hebrew Bible, meticulously compiled and preserved by Jewish scholars known as the Masoretes between the 7th and 10th centuries A.D. The Masoretic text is the basis for most of the Protestant translations of the Old Testament, such as the King James Version, English Standard Version, New American Standard Bible, and New International Version. You got to remember this when reading the Bible. Do Talmudic Jews have the Christian interest at heart when they compiled this text? There is no doubt in my mind they did not have any interest in this work but their own. Has your preacher told you these facts? The books of the Bible are not in order of date happened, making for a confusing understanding of the Old Testament. Why is this? And there are 39 books in the Old Testament of the Christian Bible, not 24. Why is this? Christian theology states that Jesus was a Jew, so he must have looked like modern Jews too. Jews are God's chosen people. Chosen for what, you decide? Jesus came and sacrificed his life for all the people in the world. Everyone in the world is the same in God's eyes, all 9 billion, except modern Jews, who are God's chosen. Bless the Jews, and God will bless you. Jesus was a Jew. Jesus forgives sins. All you have to do is ask. And you can keep doing it. Just keep asking for forgiveness. The Jews rejected Jesus, so Jesus and God the Father changed their mind and said he came for the Gentiles, which is what everyone that is not a Jew. Europeans, Latin Americans, Africans, Asians, all the people of the world are Gentiles. All people are equal in God's eyes, except the Jews. They are God's chosen. So it is a moot question. We already know what the people of the Bible looked like. Just look at modern Jews. So why even ask the question, what did the people of the Bible look like? I hope I will prove to you that all the statements above are lies. You were programmed to think that way all your life by your preachers, TV, movies, history book pictures. This is the modern Christian theology you will have to question for yourself, the programming you have to overcome to understand why I present to you the case of what the people of the Bible looked like. Everywhere you turn in the modern world, the history books, TV, movies, modern pictures, all of them inform us that the people of the Bible were a swarty people, black hair, black or brown eyes, short, all the features of Middle Eastern people today. Watch the movie The 10 Commandments, a movie that makes modern Christians all warm and tingly inside. The thinking goes like this: the people of today in the Middle East look like that, so all the history of the Middle East, they looked like that too, all the way back to Adam. And Adam was the first man on earth, 6,000 years ago, and somehow all the races have formed in the past 6,000 years. And the Middle East got the brown part, Africa the black, Asia the brown-yellow part, Europe the white part, America the brown part. Also, in addition to the skin color, the skull shape became different for all the races, brain size, facial features, intelligence, and so forth, all changed in 6,000 years. However, for people who still read books, the founders of the first civilization, Sumerian, then the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, all left carving of their faces, and all of them, in the beginning of those civilizations, were white, Aryan, Indo-European, Adamic. But what matters is what preachers tell their congregation, that Adam was the first man on earth, so all the races came from Adam. God sees the races all the same, all 9 billion, we all pray to the same God. He created all of us in his image. Jesus loves everyone the same, except Jews are God's chosen, so he must love them more. Jews are more equal in this Marxist Christian view of the world Bible they use. And modern Christianity is a Marxist religion. It could not have always been that way, but today it is. Christians prefer a lie over the truth. The Bible states that when people are like this, God Yahweh will send them a deluding influence to make them believe more lies. Open a mainstream history book, watch TV, movies, and lots of deluding influence will come your way. The truth is that the Bible tells us, in part, that the people of the Bible were a Indo-European, white skin, Aryan, looked like Adam. The people of the Bible looked like the nation founders, white American, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada. Historical records outside the Bible tells us the same thing, and those records have left pictures of what the Bible racial kinsmen looked like. And your preacher never told you this, because what does it matter? Jesus came for all the Gentiles, all 9 billion. The first recorded civilization in the history books is called Sumeria, the Sumerians. The Bible calls it the Chaldees. Most, but not all of ancient Sumeria, is what is modern Iraq today. If you go there today, all that you see are Arabs, a dark skin, hair, eyes people. The Sumerian civilization in the modern history books started about 5,500 years ago, 500 years after the creation of Adam. And the pictures you see in these books are always people of black hair, skin, eyes. But the founders of this civilization left carvings of themselves, and you often see inset blue eyes in those works. The older historians, 120 years ago, state that these rulers came in from the north. With Saxon, Viking horned headdress, they were tall, Nordics, Aryans, Indo-European, white people often with blue eyes. I call them Adamic. They came from Adam. In the Old Hebrew language, the word Adam means to blush red in the face, to show blood in the face. Obviously, they wanted to distinguish themselves from their subject people who, in their written records, they refer to as the black-haired ones. The Sumerians positioned themselves along the Euphrates River, where their servants, slaves, serfs, peasants, workers, the black-headed ones, formed dikes, catching the floodwaters coming down off the mountains, all the way to the Persian Gulf, over 100 miles. These dikes were irrigation waters, reservoirs, to grow crops, much like the Egyptians did from the waters of the Nile. This civilization lasted to about 2000 BC, the time of Abraham, where many of among them faded into mixed people, mixed Adamic, mixed with the black-headed ones. In time, these white civilization makers just moved on to other territory, and those left behind became part of the mixed multitudes of what is Iraq today. The genius of the Sumerians is still around today. You see it sometimes in really bright Iraqi people, recessive genes coming to life in what was a Stone Age people. In ancient Sumeria, they invented writing, bronze, iron tools and weapons, became experts at mapping star movements, became great sailors, and much more inventions of the brilliant minds many of them had. The book of Jasher is mentioned in the King James Version of the Bible. It used to be a book in the Holy Bible, but somewhere along the way someone made the decision to remove it, probably the Masoretic Talmud Jews. The book of Jasher states that Abraham was a prince in Sumeria, one of the blue-eyed ones, around the last fall of Sumerian leadership, 2000 BC. Abraham led a group of Sumerians from there to Canaan land and into Egypt. His wife Sarah had to be one of those people of rank. Genesis 12:14 states she was very fair, King James Version. To me, this means she was fair of skin color, but it could also mean she was very beautiful, probably meant both. But remember the Sumerians, where she and Abraham came from, were a Nordic, tall, blue-eyed people, so those features must fit the picture puzzle we are solving. And Abraham, a prince from Sumeria, must have looked like them too. Go to the Adam book I wrote 30 years ago, crutchercpa.com, and read the chapter on Sumeria for a more detailed look at what the Sumerians, the Chaldeans, looked like. I have also included pictures in this presentation taken from that book. The son of Abraham, through Sarah, was Isaac. He married Rebekah. Genesis 24:16 states Rebekah was very fair, King James Version, a white-skinned woman. They traveled into Canaan land and Egypt. The Bible states that Egypt was the land of Ham, a son of Noah, 2300 BC. In the New International Version of the Bible, one of the sons of Ham was named Egypt. Abraham was a descendant of Shem, another son of Noah. The word Shem is where the word Semite come from, Shemites. The other son of Noah was Japheth, who went mostly north and west, but you will find some his descendants mentioned in the Bible. Sayce, who wrote the book The Races of the Old Testament, page 87, 1891, wrote this: Since the dawn of history, the land of Egypt has been occupied by two different races. The original inhabitants were pre-Adamic people. The most recent pre-Adamic man was short, had darker skin, black hair, and black or dark eyes. When Adamic man arrived in Egypt, pre-Adamic man became his subject, his workers. Pre-Adamic man was compelled to execute the monumental works, which have made the name of Egypt famous throughout the world. In the later dynasties, there were almost 30. In the course of time, however, the two races became completely amalgamated, mixed. The people of Egypt we see today are the product of North African pre-Adamic man, Sub-Sahara African man, the black, imported as slaves, and Adamic man, the white men and women, the Noahites, the Adamites. Today, Egypt's primary economic strengths are tourism, the great monuments, sustenance agriculture, and billions of dollars each year in aid from the United States. Without the U.S. aid each year, they would starve. People who cannot feed themselves do no construct great monuments like what is in Egypt. So what did the racial cousins to Abraham, the Egyptians, the land of Ham, look like? I have some pictures displayed for you all. From the Bible, Moses was exceedingly fair. Acts 7:20, King James Version. Moses' mother put him in a basket, floated him down the Nile. The daughter of the Egyptian royalty found him. He was so fair and beautiful, and raised him in the royal family, he must have looked the same as the Egyptians. The Ramses mummy, he had red hair and beard. Prince Khufu-Khaf, son of King Cheops, the textbook builder of the Great Pyramid about 2650 BC, was from the 4th dynasty. Khufu-Khaf's sister, Hetep-Heres, had blonde hair from wall painting. Go to my Adam book, crutchercpa.com, and read the chapter on Egypt for more proof of what the ruling and founding Egyptians looked like. Moses was exceedingly fair and looked just like them. I have seen DNA studies reported on the internet that compare ancient dynasty Egypt mummies to modern male Britians, and there is a 75% correlation. Their DNA states they look like modern English men. The Israelites lived in Egypt for 400 years and became their servants, slaves, working class. They became numerous, the numbers calculated. From the Bible I have seen are about 1.5 million at the time of the Exodus. They founded their after the Exodus nation, upon judges making important decisions, then eventually wanted a king to rule over them. They must not have liked the judicial decisions, so they choose a dictator against the wishes of God Yahweh. The first one was Saul, then David. The image I get reading about Saul is that he was a tall, Nordic warrior-looking man. The Bible does tell us what David looked like. 1 Samuel 16:12. Now he was reddish, with beautiful eyes and a handsome appearance. The King James calls his face a ruddy complexion. If you think about it, this is the description of Adam. Reddish skin, show blood in the face. The modern Irish and Scots come to mind when I think of reddish skin, showing blood in the face. Many preachers will tell you Moses married an Ethiopian. If you go to Ethiopia today, you would have to conclude he married a black woman. In the New American Standard Bible, this was called the land of Cush, a grandson of Noah, son of Ham. Egypt being the land of Ham, Ethiopia, the land of his son, Cush. She was a Cushite, cousin to the Egyptians, cousins to Shemites, cousins to the Israelites. If you watch the movie The 10 Commandments, Moses also married the daughter of Jethro, and in the movie he is a swarthy Arab. In the Bible he was a Midianite. Midian was the son of Abraham and his second wife, Keturah, a descendant of Japheth, the third son of Noah. Jethro, a Midianite, was a white man, a priest, as was his daughter, Zipporah, a white woman. They were not Arabs, but she was not an Israelite, you might call the Medians, Noahites. I am a West Texas farmer and often come in the house showing blood in my face, not so much sunburn, but just a reddish complexion, showing blood in my face. My complexion is like Adam or David. My legs are white. Click on my picture, on YouTube, page down, you will see me next to my tractor. I look like what old Israel, the ruling Egyptians, the Sumerians, the Greeks, the early Romans must have looked like. I am 6 feet 2 inches, and modern living has my weight at 220 pounds. Perhaps now is the time to bring up one of God's laws, probably the most important one. Interracial marriage is absolutely forbidden in the Bible. Click on my picture. I have 3 audios on this subject, 1 by me and 2 by Pastor Peters. All the people above, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, Leah, Rebekah, Keturah, Moses, Zipporah, Midian, David, Bathsheba, Solomon, all must have been a pure-blood Adamite. It was required by God's laws. You all have to remember this one, interracial marriage, although promoted in modern times, is forbidden by God Yahweh's laws. And none of these people were Jews, they were Israelites. You cannot equate modern Jews with ancient Israelites. They are not the same. Solomon, wise Solomon, broke these laws of no interracial marriage. Solomon was a walking hard-on. He saw a woman he wanted, and because he was a king, he took her, either as a wife or a concubine. And he married many strange wives. That term means other races. The numbers I have seen are 1,000 women underneath him, many of them strange women. Solomon wrote many of the Proverbs. It was he that warned against strange woman. He had lived it. Solomon had blue eyes. Song of Solomon 5:12. What was most important to Solomon was having sex, accumulating great wealth of gold and silver, building a house for himself, 10 times larger than the house of the Lord, and writing the Proverbs. In the life he lived, I can see very little wisdom. His behavior destroyed Israel. I think this is why God destroyed Israel by Assyria. Solomon set the stage for mass interracial marriage of Israel with the black-headed ones. And if God had not have cast them off, all of Israel would have interracial marriage themselves out of existence. The Sumerians did it. So did the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, to where the entire Middle East looks like the people that were there before Adamic man. Today, Europe is doing it. So is America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia. All of us are gradually destroying ourselves with interracial marriage. When Solomon died, his thousands of children warred among themselves, could not get along, and the nation of Israel split into two nations, 975 BC, the nation of Judea to the south, and the nation of Israel to the north. The nation of Judea was the tribe of Judea, Benjamin, and some of the priesthood tribe of Levi. The rest of the tribes, 10 of them, went to the nation of Israel to the north. Joseph got 2 shares, one for each of his sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. The tribe of Israel was conquered by the Adamic nation of Assyria to the north, and those 15 million people were relocated south of the Black Sea, south of the Caucasus Mountains, 745 BC. But many of Judah and Benjamin were carried off to the north at this time. These people, the 15 million, later in history became known as the lost tribes of Israel, the dispersed, the scattered, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The prophecy of Manasseh was that they were to become a large nation and very powerful, and Ephraim was to be a small nation and very powerful. I see America as Manasseh and Great Britain before 1900 as Ephraim. At one time in history, the sun never set on the English Empire. Jesus, in Matthew 15:24 states, I come only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. At the time of Jesus, most of Judea was a racially mixed people. Only a remnant of old Israel left, a remnant of pure bloods. Jesus came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, dispersion of 745 BC. God knew who they were and are. They do not, they are lost to this. The nation of Judea, what preachers in the Bible calls the Jews, they were conquered by Babylon 580 BC, and a remnant, understand, only a remnant of old Israel, returned to Judea 70 years later to rebuild the temple of wise Solomon. When they returned, the land of Judea was a racially mixed nation. When they returned, their Bible was not our Old Testament Bible, the Christian Bible. Their most holy book was the traditions of man, traditions of the elders, the traditions, called that by Jesus, always in the negative. Today, those series of man-made religious laws are called the Talmud by modern Jews today. The Talmud states that when God has doubts, he consults the Talmud. The Talmud states Jesus was a bastard, son of a Roman soldier, Mary, his mother, a prostitute. And today, Jesus in neck-deep in boiling excrement in hell, eternal. This is the book of the Pharisees, the Sadducees in Jesus' time, and today the religious book of modern Jews. And preachers tell you Jews are God's chosen, and you as Christians buy it. You are a brain-dead people for thinking modern Jews are God's chosen people. Amazing, the gullibleness of modern Christians. The modern Jews also claim to worship the first 5 books of the Bible written by Moses. They call it the Torah. I do not know if the Torah is the same as our Bible, first 5 books, we Christians, or to what extent it might be similar. And Jesus had to be a pure-blood Israelite. God's law required it. Click on my picture. Scroll down to the video called Jesus Description. These are the official records at the time of Jesus. He was not black like modern propaganda. He was not Arab-looking. He was not swarthy. He was not a Jew. He was an Israelite, a pure-blood Israelite. He looked like the rest of the people, above Shemites, in the Bible. He looked like the land of Ham rulers. He looked like the Midianites. He looked like the founders of Sumeria. It is a 5 minutes listen. Why do preachers call modern Jews God's chosen when they deny Christ? If you try to preach Christianity in modern Israel, you are arrested and sent to jail. In modern Israel, some citizens spit when they hear the name Jesus. If the Talmud states Jesus was a bastard and Mary a prostitute, what Christian preacher should call Jews God's chosen? All this is beyond belief, a preacher calling Jesus haters as God's chosen. Modern Jews are not God's chosen people. They are the people of Revelations 2:9 and 3:9. In the past 50 years, there have been several books written about the racial origins of modern Jews. One such book is The 13th Tribe by Arthur Koestler. I read this book 30 years ago, written in the 70s. This book asserts that modern Ashkenazi Jews do not descend from ancient Judea or from ancient Israel. They are descended from a nation in southern Europe called Khazaria. About 700 AD, the king converted that nation to Judaism and Talmudism. Their people were called Khazars. And Ashkenaz was a grandson of Japheth, a son of Noah. This is contrary to Old Israel, who were of Shem, Shemites. Old Israel descends from Shem, not Japheth, both sons of Noah. This book made the New York Times bestseller list, and Koestler was murdered shortly after the release of the book. Ask yourself why your preacher does not know this. If he calls them God's chosen and teaches you that Jews are God's chosen, ask yourself, do modern Jews look like the historical records of the Bible people, or their cousins, the Egyptians, their ancestors, the Sumerians? Ask yourself, do any of these people, the Sumerians, Egyptians, Sarah, Rebecca, Moses, David, Jesus, look like modern Middle Easterners? If they do not, why haven't you been taught this? The damage modern preachers have done to Christianity is great. Why is it important to understand what the Sumerians, the Egyptians, Abraham, Sarah, the Israelites looked like? The Bible makes prophecy about the descendants of Abraham, the descendants of ancient Israel, and if the modern Jews are not those people, then who is? The prophecies center around the lost sheep of the house of Israel, the dispersion of 745 BC. The prophecies do speak of these people being reunited, regathered, to a nation of their own again. Who are these people and what nations did they go to and be reunited, regathered? Which people, which nations fit the puzzle pieces? The prophecy on Abraham was that his descendants were to become a multitude of nations, as sands of the sea, stars in the sky. If you look up the word nations in Strong's Concordance, it means Gentiles. Abraham's descendants will become a multitude of Gentiles, but God's laws required no interracial marriage, so these Gentiles had to look like Abraham and Sarah. Bible prophecy that tells us about these lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you listen to the prophesy below, without pulling out your hammer and pounding a round peg in a square hole, the modern nation of Israel, who must the prophecy apply to? Isaiah 11:12. And he will assemble the banished ones of Israel, and will gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. Note, when he gathered them, where did he place them? Isaiah 54:3, you will spread abroad to the right and the left, and your descendants will possess nations. Note, what group of people did this? Isaiah 56 describes the ability of other races to come to God, Yahweh, through his Son, Jesus. It does not mean they become Israel. It means they have the option to join themselves to Jesus and God Yahweh. But their DNA will never be Israel. Isaiah 65:25, the wolf and the lamb shall graze together, and the lion shall eat straw. Note, the wolf and the lion is symbolic of government. The sheep are his people. This means government and Israel shall become one again, which America was for almost 300 years. until about 1900. Jeremiah 3:17. At that time they shall call Jerusalem, the throne of the Lord, and all the nations will be gathered to it, to Jerusalem. This was stated by Jeremiah 586 BC. Note the letters USA in the middle of the word Jerusalem. Jeremiah 23:3. And I myself shall gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries where I have driven them, and shall bring them back to their pasture, and they will be fruitful and multiply. Note, who did this happen to the past 2,700 years? Jeremiah 23:8. Lead the descendants of Israel from the northland and from all the countries where I have driven them. Then they will have their own soil. Jeremiah 33:10. Hear the word of the Lord, O nations, and declare in the coastlands afar off, and say, He who scattered Israel will gather him. Note, where are the coastlands far off? Part of it has to be America. Jeremiah 32:22, to give them a land overflowing with milk and honey. Ezekiel 20:34, and I shall bring you out from the peoples and gather you from the lands where you are scattered. Note Ezekiel was written about 575 BC, 200 years after the dispersion of 745 BC. Ezekiel 34:16, I will seek the lost, bring back the scattered. Ezekiel 36:24, I will take you from the nations, gather you from all the lands, and bring you into your own land. And verse 26, and I will give you a new heart. Ezekiel 37:22, I will make them one nation in the land. And verse 23, and they will be my people, and I will be their God. And 24, they will have one shepherd. Note the one shepherd is Jesus. Hosea 1:10, written 726 BC during the dispersion of Israel, 745 BC. Yet the sons of Israel will be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered, and it will come about that in the place where is said to them, You are not my people. It will be said, You are the sons of the living God. And the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel will be gathered together, and they will appoint themselves one leader. Note, this refers to Jesus as the leader, as us as the sons of God. Joel 2:20 refers to an eastern sea and a western sea, which old Israel had only a western sea. Zechariah 520 BC, chapter 2, verse 4. Jerusalem will be inhabited without walls because of the multitude of men and cattle in it. Note, Old Jerusalem had walls in it, a fort. America, up to about 1890, was almost exclusively settled by northern Europeans, and the greatest were from England, Scotland, and northern Germany. Look at your white family members. Think about the prophecy scriptures above, God gathering the dispersion of 745 BC and giving them a new home of their own. All the laws in America, until about 1900, reflected Christian values, biblical values. Have these prophecies ever applied to modern Jews? Have modern Jews become a multitude of nations, as sands of the sea, as stars in the sky? Are they called the sons of God? Do they follow the one leader, one shepherd, Jesus? The new covenant God makes with Israel. The first covenant was with the nation of Israel, but they did not keep their end of the agreement with God Yahweh. So the contract ended in 745 BC for Israel and 580 BC for Judea. Mainstream preachers will tell you that Jesus is the new covenant, and that covenant is with the Gentiles. All races are the same. All individuals within the races are the same. But what does the Bible say the new covenant is with? Hebrews 8:8-10. For finding fault with them, he saith, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind, and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. What people as a group carry the laws of God Yahweh in their hearts and minds? What group follow the teaching of man, the traditions of man, the Babylonia Talmud, instead of God's laws? Jesus in Matthew 15:24 said, I came only for the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and in 10:5-6 he stated, Go not the way of the Gentiles, but rather go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Your preachers tell you he came for everyone, all the Gentiles, all 9 billion. Who is right? Your preacher or the words of Jesus? A final thought on who the people of the Bible looked like. Joseph of Arimathea, mentioned in the Bible, was the uncle of Mary, great uncle of Jesus. He was a wealthy tin merchant with houses in England and Judea. England being the most prolific place to mine tin, the largest tin deposits in the world. He had many transport ships, delivering tin all over the world. Bronze is made from 9 parts tin, 1 part copper. It was his tomb in Judea Jesus was laid in. The Bible states that Jesus was rich, but chose poor, for his mission to reach the lost sheep of the house of Israel. It is reasonable to assume his rich came from his great-uncle Joseph. Click on my picture. There is an online book, a book that is read to you as you drive or have a meal, called The Drama of the Lost Disciples by George Jowett. Judea, that geographic area, was not a safe place for early Christians, so where did they go? Did the Pharisees kill all of them? Mr. Jowett makes the case that after the death of Jesus, Mary, Jesus' mother, and the remaining disciples still alive, were taken by Joseph to England on one of his tin hauling ships, and it was there they preached the word until they died of old age. But they, the living disciples, surely produced children. Stop and think about that for a moment. Clearly, Christianity went to England first, after Jesus' death. Surely they looked like the English of 2,000 years ago. The ancient Egyptian rulers' mummies' DNA matched 75% with modern male Britons, and the English of 2,000 years ago surely looked like the English of today. Interesting, not long after the death of Jesus, the Roman emperors had family in England that were Christians. Some lived in Rome in the royal household, while they were killing Christians in Rome and wherever they found them. But these English Christian family of royalty were safe in Caesar's household. Listen to the book and decide for yourself. Don't let the world tell you. Decide for yourself. You have been lied to all your life. Start thinking for yourselves. If you want to hear more from a different perspective, click on my picture. Listen to the message, Who Did Jesus Come For? And Greatest Bible Discovery of Our Age, Parts 1 and 2. Also, I have 2 messages by Pastor Peters on the 2 most confusing words, Jew and Gentile. These help in understanding the Bible and Christianity today. These 2 words have been made confusing by modern Christian theology and the world order. Or go to my webpage, crutchercpa.com, and look at the Adam book I finished about 30 years ago. I have been at this for a long time, almost 40 years. It has been so frustrating all these 40 years. Most white people believe what they want to believe, and no amount of facts and logic can change that. Christianity has become a right-brain, Marxist religion. But I do not have a choice but to stay the course until I pass from this life of flesh. Your enemies, my enemies, hath done this to you, hath lied to you your entire life. They wish for you to stay away from the knowledge of the truth. If we stop fighting their satanic influences in our lives, in human form, they win. Kent Crutcher.